Yeah, I think it probably makes sense to just dwell here while we're here. Thanks for your answers thus far, Mr. Scott. And we've spoken mostly. I'm interested to know why you would refer to the initial 21 February article, the vast differences between NBN and the Coalition's alternative, the 11,000-word article. Yeah. I've got a copy of it here. That I guess might have started this particular ball rolling. Why you refer to that as a treatise? Because that makes... Why would you not just refer to it as an article?
I cannot recall at any other time. There are two elements of it that I think are noteworthy, frankly. In my experience at the ABC, I can never recall when we have ever published anything at 11,000 words. A factor of many times longer than anything else that we have ever published. So unprecedented in its scale.
Okay, so it was long.
And very, very, very long, Senator. In my newspaper publishing experience, I think 5,000 or 8,000 words was the longest we ever published in print. So it's a very long piece. And the second thing is, Senator, given the nature of the piece, the fact that it was not upwardly referred, that it was not discussed with any of his line managers, as I understand it, you know, I was told they didn't even know it was coming. Again, I think that is most unusual and not in keeping with the usual processes that would have been in place around this. Mr. Ross, you know, despite his experience and his heartfelt views and the genuineness of his analysis, works in an editorial process. And the editorial process does have in it issues of upward referral and editorial line management. And that's why I referred to it in that way, Senator.
You've also referred to Mr. Ross, I think twice thus far, as though as heartfelt, as though it's a rather emotional piece of reporting.
No,
there are hundreds of references in here, and it's actually a remarkably well-referenced and quite factual, indeed forensic document, which others in the tech press, certainly myself, as a participant in the public debate, found immensely valuable, and it keeps getting referred to as though it's some sort of vanity posting.
No, I don't want to. You know, I think it's fair to say, and I think he hasn't made a secret of it, that Mr. Ross didn't always have a happy time at the ABC, and Senator, I could take a view here that was critical of the way he approached some of these things. Those two matters that I just raised to you, particularly having it posted without the upward referral, that's quite a serious matter editorially, Senator. But I do not want to have a go at Mr. Ross on all of that, and I'm saying that I believe he was genuine and serious-minded in his approach. The challenge we had was his approach, did that lead us to coverage that was compliant with our editorial policies? And it's not simply a case of on the one hand or on the other hand, it's not simply a case of false balance. It is around the principal relevant viewpoints and the range of perspectives around this contentious matter. And whilst there are some who are very supportive of that piece, there are others who were critical of it.
Well, such as the opposition communications spokesperson.
Yeah, but others as well, Senator. And as Media Watch found, and that was Media Watch's perspective, he was an advocate. Well, that's not the role that our journalists are meant to play.
Spoken a couple of times about editorial balance, and in my reading of the transcript, and again I do want to acknowledge New Matilda, and I think Crikey is among the only two outlets that have actually picked this up, is that Mr. Belsham isn't critiquing Mr. Ross on balance. He's saying, you need to provide us with some insurance. You need to go out and write a hit piece on Stephen Conroy and the Labor Party NBN model. And that is what I find most dissonant. I'm not referring to the vast difference article of February now. We're referring to the second article, is Australia's copper network fit for purpose? And in this transcript that dates back to May 2013, you can see Mr. Ross is being schooled by Mr. Belsham in an article that won't eventually be published until after the election, after it ceases to be of any value of people who are trying to make judgment calls about the relative merits of one policy or another. He's not being told that the article's out of balance. He actually says, I like the latest piece. I would like to publish it. And then he advises Mr. Ross to go out and write a hit piece on the alternative.
I think, Senator, I must say, I would say I've heard a lot of colourful language in newsrooms. That's not particularly colourful. I think what he's saying is that there were clearly, if you've been following it, significant debate around the policies brought forward by both sides. Issues like the growing debate between the relative costs of the different programs, the delay of the NBN, technical issues around NBN Co's delivery speed to homes, the return of public investment, the economic modelling, the absence of a economic benefits strategy around the NBN. These are all very relevant issues. And for Mr Belsham to encourage Mr Ross to go and interrogate those matters, I don't think was inappropriate. And it goes to completeness of the coverage.
Mr Ross had written some quite critical stuff in the past about the Labor NBN model, but I do find it extraordinary that he's being schooled about a piece that his editor says he quite likes.
Yeah.
You've got to go and we give you some insurance policy, he says, otherwise the Turnbull camp and my superiors will come down on me like a ton of bricks. What the hell has that got to do with editorial balance?
Well, because I think it's to do with the completeness of the coverage, Senator, that Belsham thought there were some merits in that piece, but what are the other angles? What is the other perspectives that we need to bring to bear to provide completeness of coverage? Now,
insurance implies a political calculation.
What he said.
Insurance implies...
Ludlam has the call.
But Senator, as I read that piece, I understood exactly what Mr Belsham was saying.
I think
and
we all understand.
I don't think it was. I think he was saying that the coverage was not complete or comprehensive. But I'm not sure that Mr Ross shared that view. Mr Ross thought he'd written what needed to be written on the matter, and there were a range of other. And I can tell you, as an editor, you are sending journalists out to find new and different angles on stories to make sure you've told the full and complete story. And so therefore I don't find it that surprising. I certainly don't find it sinister. And it goes back to the issue that was raised about, in a sense, was there political pressure? There was political criticism. I get political criticism all the time around coverage. It does not equate to pressure. It does not equate to pressure on journalists.
The Turnbull camp and my superiors will come down on me like a ton of bricks.
Let Mr Scott finish his answer.
The defence that comes to bear comes with us delivering on our editorial policies and delivers on the Charter.
Mr Scott, I put to you that you haven't delivered on your editorial policies in this instance. Had Mr Turnbull, either from opposition or from government, approached you directly about the ABC's
I'm not sure about directly, but he certainly did mention it from time to time. But Senator, if you really want me to document the number of times politicians have mentioned or complained to me about coverage, it would be a long list, and I don't think we have the time. Senator Back, always very cordial, as he does it. Not everyone is as cordial as the good senator.
My name would be on that list as well, Mr Scott.
Of course, and so it's.
I'm trying to keep us to the subject.
Course.
No, this is something a little bit different because, unlike the usual path for the course, we've got some insight in this case about some of the conversations that occur internally to try and take the political heat off the ABC, and that's rare.
Yeah, the political heat comes off the ABC, Senator, and the defence that I can run here is if we are delivering within our editorial policies, if we are delivering the principal relevant perspectives, or if we are delivering complete coverage, and that is the defence, Senator. And if in fact we cannot demonstrate that, then there will be consequences to that, no matter who is in power, no matter what is the committee. Right. The defence is that we meet the editorial requirements, and that's what we're looking to do.
Now I think we're getting close. So in your view, why was that second piece? Is Australia's copper network fit for purpose? Mr Ross is of the view, on the basis of the evidence that he spent a fair bit of time going over, that it's not. He goes through material that came to one of the Senate standing committees, fair bit of research. Why was that piece held up from publication?
I'd have to check. I don't have that advice on that, Senator.
Well, that is what this whole question hinges on. It's that
I can take that on notice, Senator. I'm sorry, I don't have a detail on that chronology.
You're aware of the article that I'm
referring
to?
I think I've seen that article.
Well, it's the one that is referred to in the tape recording, not the first one that caused the media watch and the Australian and the News Corp press to go on one of their character assassination ventures, but the one that he's being schooled on in this recorded conversation in May.
Yeah.
That piece was held up for 6 months and wasn't published until about a fortnight after the election.
I'll come back to you on that, Senator.
I'd appreciate that. I'm happy to yield to Senator Dastyari and we'll come back to